Western philosophy. Starting premise. A bewilderingly large number of competing premises. Philosophy has thrown up idealism, subjective idealism, objective idealism, transcendental idealism, absolute idealism, materialism, dialectical materialism, realism, nominalism, universalism, solipsism, naturalism, empiricism, absurdism, existentialism, dualism, dialectical monoism, panpsychism, vitalism, animism, phenomenology, will to existence, will to power, the unconscious, scholasticism, utilitarianism, positivism, statism, libertarianism, atomism, holism, pragmatism, mysticism, relativism, anarchism, hedonism, asceticism, stoicism, evolution, determinism, skepticism, free will, the general will, scientism, theism, atheism, agnosticism, pantheism, polytheism, monotheism, the ego, the transcendent ego, the non-ego, modernism, postmodernism, structuralism, hyperreality, deconstructionism. Consequences of the starting point. No clarity, no clear direction. Western philosophy is a towering edifice of human thought with endlessly interesting ideas, but trapped in confusion and contradiction. Philosophy's grand ambition has collapsed. It is viewed as increasingly irrelevant by the vast majority of people. The Abrahamic religions ignored mathematics and science, hence were certain to be in error. Ditto the Eastern religions. Western science sought to work back from the experimental data to the grand design, rather than the other way around. To go from data to design is impossibly difficult, particularly when much of the data is hidden. Which human would ever have thought about invisible waves such as the radio waves, microwaves, infrared waves until the theory of electromagnetism pointed to their existence? This is a classic case of theory, not data, driving our understanding. In his book Parallel Worlds, physicist Michio Kaku wrote, "The visible matter we see around us, including the mountains, planets, stars, and galaxies, makes up a paltry 4% of the total matter and energy content of the universe. Of that 4%, most of it is in the form of hydrogen and helium, and probably only 0.03% takes the form of the heavy elements. Most of the universe is actually made of mysterious, invisible material of totally unknown origin. The familiar elements that make up our world constitute only 0.03% of the universe. In some sense, science is being thrown back centuries into the past. Before the rise of the atomic hypothesis, as physicists grapple with the fact that the universe is dominated by new, unknown forms of matter and energy. 23% of the universe is made of a strange, undetermined substance called dark matter, which has weight, surrounds the galaxies in a gigantic halo, but is totally invisible. It bends starlight, just like glass, and hence can be located by the amount of optical distortion it creates." Princeton astronomer John Bacall said, "We live in an implausible, crazy universe, but one whose defining characteristics we now know." But perhaps the greatest surprise that sent the scientific community reeling was that 73% of the universe, by far the largest amount, is made of a totally unknown form of energy called dark energy, or the invisible energy hidden in the vacuum of space. No one at the present time has any understanding of where this energy of nothing comes from. Frankly, we don't understand it. We know what its effects are. We are completely clueless. Everybody's clueless about it, admits Craig Hogan, an astronomer at the University of Washington at Seattle. If we take the latest theory of subatomic particles and try to compute the value of this dark energy, we find a number that is off by 10 raised to 120. That is, That's the number 1 followed by 120 zeros. What we know has shrunk to a miserable 4%. We will now reveal in general terms how Pythagoras and his successors in the Illuminati approached the problem. Step 1. Define the arc, the basic substance of existence. What are the questions to consider? First of all, is it even valid to say there's only one fundamental substance? Step 2. Either the arc has a built-in form or it is formless and form is imposed on it by something else. Either way, we now have to define form. What is it that creates organization, shape, symmetry, pattern, order, regularity, predictability, stability? For believers in a creator God, it is God who gives form to everything. But that is a magic answer. It doesn't explain form except in terms of something even more mysterious. God, an already perfect form. Where did he get his form from? Pythagoras had no hesitation in declaring mathematics to be the essence of form. Mathematics in itself is ordered, regular, full of pattern and shape, symmetry and predictability. What better entity could act as a cosmic form to stamp on cosmic formlessness? In fact, is it even possible for there to be any other candidate? Only two things can give form: a mind, a creator, designer, sculptor. But then, where does the mind get its ideas of form from? Or non-mind, whose intrinsic nature reflects order and organization? Mathematics is the only essential source of order and organization. And in fact, it is from mathematics that mind derives its own order and organization. That is, mind is itself mathematical. Pythagoras taught that numbers were in fact the arc, the fundamental substance of the cosmos. Using neutral scientific terminology, the arc is energy, an intrinsically formless substance. Using philosophical language, it is will. We want to indicate that energy has qualities of mind, but not consciousness and purpose. The will to survive, the will to power, the will to evolve. Combining both ideas, the arc becomes minded energy or willful energy. The key point to grasp is that from the very beginning, the basic substance of the cosmos was alive and in possession of mind, albeit at an extremely abstract level. Life and mind are intrinsic to the cosmos, which is why life and mind manifest themselves in the cosmos. They have not emerged from non-life and non-mind as materialistic atheists suggest. And indeed, how could they? There is no possible mechanism to extract life from the dead or mind from the mindless. Dead things are simply those things in which life takes place at a different level from which we understand. Mindless things are those things in which we cannot perceive any mind at work, but nevertheless mind is there. This is the doctrine of panpsychianism. Mind is everywhere, in everything. As for consciousness, this is mind that has evolved to the stage where it can reflect upon itself. It is high functioning mind rather than low functioning unconscious mind. To begin with, the scientific energy aspect of the arc predominates. As the arc evolves, the mind, spirit, will comes increasingly to the fore. And finally, consciousness evolves. Consciousness, taken to its limit, its omega point, is none other than God. God is the supreme actualization of all potential inherent in the arc. He is the God of evolution, not of creation. He expresses that which was always there, but which can now fully manifest itself. When we were children, we had all sorts of talents as yet unexpressed. Now that we are adults, we should be expressing those talents for all to see. Thus, it is with the cosmos. It started as a helpless baby. It ends at God. As above, so below. Once God exists, then He has complete mastery over the arc. It reflects His will. It is His will. God and the arc are then one and the same. The arc begins as God hidden, God as potential, God as possibility. Then evolution transforms the arc into God revealed, God as actualization, God as every possibility realized. although this appears to be the pantheistic position. That is, God is everywhere and in everything. It is actually defined as panentheism. God is the whole, and the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. The hidden purpose of the ark was to evolve into this whole, God, the summit of cosmic possibility. It drove the universe forwards until the goal was accomplished. God was the meaning of existence, the telos, the end towards which the cosmos was always striving. And we are part of this process. We are the children of the divine purpose. And it is our glorious destiny to enter into union with God and to reflect the divine will. Arc, that is formlessness, plus mathematics, that is form, plus dialectic, that is teleology, equals God. Anything not forbidden is compulsory. The ability of evolution to generate a point of maximum actualization is not forbidden, hence, it is compulsory. Digested food and drink, formlessness, plus DNA, form, plus dialectic, teleology, equals humanity. As above, so below. Humanity may or may not prove the apex of terrestrial evolution, but if Earth, a lump of rock with a molten metal core, succeeded in giving birth from a primordial chemical soup to beings that could laugh, cry, love, philosophize, do art, music, mathematics, science, and contemplate infinity, what can the infinite cosmos accomplish if not an infinitely grander version of the same thing? God is not the creator, the ark is. God did not create the universe created God. And yet God was always implicit in the universe. So in another sense, God was self-creating. Evolution transforms God from potential into actuality. Everything just magically is, without any further need of explanation. The riddle of the universe is answered with an infinitely greater riddle, that is God, by Abrahamism. If you accept the existence of God, you have two choices. Number one, God is all-seeing, all-knowing, all-powerful, and morally perfect, is outside the universe and created the universe. This God is therefore an infinite mystery that humanity can never comprehend. In no conceivable way are we created in this God's image. He was not created. We were. So how can there be any genuine likeness? Or, number two, God is inside the universe and is created by the universe. God is made of the same ark as the universe. Indeed, He is the ark, but initially at the level of potential rather than actuality. Just as humanity evolved on a terrestrial scale, so did God on a cosmic scale. As above, so below. Humanity, like God, is made up of the ark. Everything that applies to God applies to humanity. We are on the same trajectory. We are indeed truly made in God's image. Do you accept as above, so below, or above and below have nothing in common? Those are the two choices. We are nothing compared with God, or we ourselves are gods in the making. There is only one stumbling block to the united humanity, a new world order, the catastrophe of Abrahamism, the darkest shadow that has ever fallen upon humanity, an eternal blight and curse. Christians, Muslims, and Jews are appalling fanatics who are holding back humanity. They are the devil worshipping forces of darkness, steeped in primitive violence and ignorance. They have the impudence to call themselves civilized, to say that they are disciples of peace, love, compassion, forgiveness, and mercy. These followers of religions that have given us thousands of years of the opposite, of hatred, violence, cruelty, torture, intolerance, war, slaughter, condemnation, oppression, and mercilessness. If Yahweh sanctioned the genocide of the Canaanites so that His chosen people could steal their land, then Yahweh is Satan. If Jesus Christ is the Son of Yahweh, then He is the son of Satan. If Allah sanctioned 9/11, then Allah is Satan. If He did not, then why did 19 homicidal maniacs cry Allahu Akbar as they committed mass murder? Zero and infinity. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. For man has closed himself up till he sees all things through narrow chinks of his cavern. A quote by William Blake. One of the best illustrations is religion. In the Abrahamic faiths, the distance between human beings and God is stretched to infinity. He is infinitely far above us in terms of everything. Infinitely more powerful, infinitely more good, infinitely wiser, infinitely more knowing. He is infinite perfection. So the contrast between God and us can be pushed no further. We, in comparison with this infinite God, are reduced to zero. There you have it, the eternal dualism of zero and infinity. Imagine that a prophet claimed that God was 33% smarter and better than human beings. That would be absurd, wouldn't it? The prophet would have no followers. What about 100% or 1000% or 1 lakh% or a trillion%? Well, these are all utterly arbitrary, aren't they? It would seem as though the prophet had simply plucked a number out of thin air. There is no sufficient reason to choose any such number. Only one number will suffice: infinity, the absolute limit. In other words, as soon as any prophet conceives of God, he is compelled to represent him in terms of the infinite. And by comparison, humanity cannot help but be relegated to zero, since all finite entities are zero in terms of infinity. Polytheism invariably dilutes the power of gods, but monotheism magnifies divine power until it reaches infinity and can go no further. So automatically, Abrahamic monotheism resulted in a fanatism completely absent in polytheistic religions. The Romans brutally slaughtered their enemies, but always in the name of Rome, not of God. They crucified Jesus Christ because he was a rebel, not because he claimed to be a son of God. It was a political execution, not religious. Although, of course, from the point of view of the Jewish hierarchy, it was absolutely a religious matter. They were the ones offended by the divine claims of Christ, not the Romans. After all, the Romans believed their emperor to be divine, so the idea of a man god wasn't shocking to them. Neither the Romans nor the Greeks would ever have conceived of waging holy war. Only Abrahamic monotheism breeds that warped mentality. The Protestant religion is another example of a psychopathic set of beliefs. It takes the worst possible view of humanity. We are helpless playthings of the will of God and have absolutely no say in our lives. What's the point of holding such insane beliefs that reduce us to puppets? Their ancestors, who got off the boats from England in the 17th century, were mostly Puritan religious fanatics, and nothing much has changed. These same people became enthusiastic slave owners and ultra-capitalists. Nothing could be more terrifying than the Tea Party assuming control of America. There was and is a tendency in Catholicism to promote the moral efficacy of good works. Martin Luther, the founder of Protestantism, adopted a position of justification by faith. Faith alone was all that mattered. Good works counted for nothing. But the Catholic saint Augustine had already gone far in this direction, and indeed, Luther was initially an Augustinian monk. Hence his familiarity with this train of thought. European Catholic countries such as Italy or Spain, and you will discover a spectacularly different mentality from those that you encounter in Protestant Britain. Muslims are every bit as locked in the humanity equals zero, God equals infinity model as the Christians. The Jews are no different. They have to obey hundreds of ludicrous rules to avoid offending God. Would God really care if you shaved off your beard, did not wear your hair in ringlets, did not wear tassels, did not wear a dark sober suit? They have turned him into some kind of petty prison guard with a Hitler mustache, determined to punish any minor transgression. He is a god preoccupied with trivia and rule books, with keeping score. People who are locked into this calculation of infinite pleasure, pain, are capable of absolutely any crime in the name of their god. The 9/11 maniacs regarded all infidels as infinitely bad people, deserving of no mercy whatsoever. But what about non-Abrahamic religions? Illumination proclaims that we can become God. In other words, Instead of expanding the gap between God and us to infinity, illumination does the opposite and reduces it to zero, so that it is no longer possible to distinguish God from us. Hinduism and Buddhism follow this line of thought too. Moksha, Nirvana, Gnosis are all essentially the same concept. Enlightenment leading to union with the Godhead or the fount of existence. Zero infinity analysis. Number 1, Abrahamism. God gap between humans and God equals infinity. Humans are zero in value. Number 2, enlightenment. Gap between humans and God equals zero, ultimately. Humans are infinite in value, ultimately. Pantheism, the idea that God is everywhere, that God is nature, hence that we are all part of God, is a special case of enlightenment thinking. Number 3, polytheism. The gods are super beings, powerful but not of infinite power. The gap between the gods and humanity is neither infinite nor zero. The gods are magnified humans, subject to the same passions and weaknesses, like the Greek god of Olympus. Number 4, atheism. There are no gods. The gap between humans and gods is zero because God does not exist. Number 5, agnosticism. Agnostics do not know whether God exists or not. Hence, no gap between gods and humans can be defined. They do not subscribe to any extremist positions because they are not in a position to do so. The Catholic Church is run by qualified experts in Catholicism. The cardinals and the Pope are deeply learned people of the caliber of academic professors. Protestantism is entirely different. Any charismatic individual can make himself a minister, set up a church and say whatever he likes. That is, Protestantism is all about giving a voice to the complete amateur who has no expertise and no qualifications. Anyone who claims they are infinitely accurate at interpreting scripture. This is one of the reasons why Protestantism is popular. One character says of the new church, it is based on your own personal interpretation of the Bible, friends. You can sit at home and interpret your own Bible however you feel in your heart. It ought to be interpreted. And that pretty much sums up Protestantism. Catholicism adopted the view that Christianity was so complex that only experts could hope to understand it. Hence, the ordinary people shouldn't even try and ought to be creatures of simple faith and nothing more. Hence, Islam and Protestantism are mob religions because all the believers react at the same time, unlike Catholicism, which waits on the Pope. As above, so below. I'm not trying to copy nature. I'm trying to find the principle she is using. R. Buckminster Fuller. All human ideas invariably get pushed to the zero or infinite limit. Here are the few more examples. Economics. Number 1. Capitalism assigns infinite value to the top capitalists. There is nothing in principle to prevent one man owning the world. An idea that features prominently in The Last Blinking by Mike Hockney. If one person is of infinite value, then everyone else is of zero value in comparison. This is the world we live in. Number 2. In communism, everybody is assigned, theoretically, equal value. That is, there is zero difference between people. There is no possibility of anyone being assigned a value different from everybody else. And the notion of any person having infinite value in relation to others is unthinkable. Hence, communism is the absolute opposite of capitalism. Communism, until the fall of Berlin Wall, was the only serious challenger to capitalism. Number 3. Meritocracy. Meritocracy does not reduce everyone to artificial total equality, in contrast to communism. Nor does it permit anyone unlimited to infinity opportunities to increase their financial value over others, in contrast to capitalism. Instead, meritocracy says that everyone is potentially of infinite value because they can all become as good as they can be. It aspires towards infinite equality of opportunity. That is, to reduce the influence of privilege to zero. But it does not endorse equality of outcome. The more meritorious will be rewarded more than the less meritorious, but not to an extent where the resultant economic imbalance can ever be used as a weapon, as in capitalism. Meritocracy is the middle way between capitalism and communism, and vastly superior to both. It takes what is best of each and discards what is worst. Meritocracy is dialectically guaranteed to replace capitalism since it is a higher synthesis. A senior member of the Tea Party openly advocated that a white businessman should not have to serve a black customer if he did not want. That is, this places infinite value on the businessman and reduces the black customer to zero. The advertising industry seeks to use infinitely seductive images to manipulate the zeros, the masses, to buy their products. This industry seeks to promote the message that the consumer is nothing without their product and becomes infinitely valuable if they buy it. People are terrified of not having the latest gadgets because their peers might mock them, that is, treat them as if they have zero value. The last blinking, the group agitating for freedom, was specifically called the League for the Liberation of Nobodies. In the workplace, your boss is on the side of the infinite while you are zero. If a policeman stops you, he is on the side of the infinite while you are zero. If a serial killer abducts you, he is on the side of the infinite while you are zero. If you fall in unrequited love, the object of your desire is on the side of the infinite while you are zero. True love may be the greatest feeling of all because you assign your lover infinite value and they do the same to you. You both feel like gods. The family, infinite value. Everybody else, zero value. It is law of the human thinking that any argument will eventually arrive at a position that can be described in terms of zero and infinity. In philosophy, idealism reduces materialism to zero, and materialism reduces idealism to zero. When Nietzsche says things such as there are no facts, only interpretations, and what ultimately are man's truths, merely his irrefutable errors, he has arrived at a position beyond which it is impossible to go. Celebrities and the internet. When Abrahamists say things such as God works in mysterious ways and how can our finite minds understand the infinite mind of God, they are establishing a false dichotomy. We can literally work out the thoughts of God because he thinks in the same way that we do, just at a much higher, better informed and more accurate level. Mathematics is universal. It is same everywhere. Evolution operates in the same way everywhere. The dialectic is a universal principle. There is nothing that is beyond our knowledge. There is never any need for faith. Everything is a matter of knowledge. Every problem will yield to humanity. Look how far we have come in the last 5,000 years. Look at the astounding amount of knowledge we have accumulated. Think of the knowledge we will have acquired in 5 million rather than 5,000 years. Will we not be gods? The world merely externalizes the inner traits of humanity. The institutions we create that shape our world are in turn shaped by the contents of our minds. If we were godlike, the world would be perfect and our institutions flawless. The only way we can make the world better is to improve the quality of the human race. And that means everyone on the planet. That means a new world order. There is a film called Idiocracy, where the IQ of the human race has suffered a catastrophic decline and complete idiots are running the planet. Let's face it, the world is already run by idiots, but things could get even worse. The internet is certainly capable of giving birth to a real idiocracy. If you ever glance at internet lists of what is trending, you will never see anything remotely inspirational, philosophical, scientific, intellectual, spiritual, creative, or artistic. Anything Lady Gaga does soars immediately to number one in the list. Her words and deeds have, seemingly, infinite importance to her legions of fans. Have they really got nothing better to do with their time than read a pop star's tweets on Twitter? What is Twitter other than literature for retards, for people with zero attention span and zero intelligence? How many of the myriad of tweets have real content? Pythagoras is either be silent or say something better than silence. Facebook too is almost entirely devoid of worth. Hundreds of millions of people stare at pictures and exchange bad jokes and gossip. Is that the best humanity can do? Where is the Facebook for philosophical exchange, for sharing the latest scientific breakthroughs, for political activism, for changing the government, for analyzing the economy, for discussing techniques for the psychological transformation of society? Where is the religious Facebook, the spiritual Facebook, the intellectual and cultural Facebook? Sure, someone starts a campaign about something serious every now and again. But the essence of Facebook is shallow narcissism, mindless chatter, inane preening and posturing. The culture of Facebook is too cool for school, too dumb, more like. Advertisers love celebrities because they instantly get onto the trending list and enjoy enormous numbers of hits. It is guaranteed. It is 100% reliable. If Lady Gaga said she would come across a really cool website called the Armageddon Conspiracy, we'd get on a trending list instantly, and within hours, we would have a million hits. It could be the largest and most profound idea in human history. But so what? If it does not have the endorsement of celebrity, then it is zero, nothing, zilch. Lady Gaga featuring in a video with a dog walking on his hind legs could easily get a billion times more hits than the million words of the Armageddon site about the secret workings of the world. That is human race for you. The internet, as we have said, is a winner takes all platform, and celebrities are the winners. Celebrity culture is the common reference point for everyone. It allows everyone to take part in the lowest common denominator, LCD, exchange of opinions. All the issues of the day can be discussed via one celebrity or another. Gays in the army? Let's discuss Lady Gaga. Drug abuse? Let's discuss Lindsay Lohan. Lesbianism? Lohan again. Gay midlife crisis? George Michael. Suicidal depression? Kurt Cobain. Scientology? John Travolta and Tom Cruise. Aliens? Robbie Williams. Female attitude towards sex? The Sex and the City Girls. Friendship? The cast of Friends. Not all people are equally well informed. It's impossible for the well informed to have an equal discussion with the ill informed. There's a fundamental asymmetry that creates tension. The next great dialectical antithesis standing in the way of progress is celebrity culture. There's only one way to beat it: to raise the minds of the people to higher levels, to give them more psychological understanding, to give them better opportunities in life, to give them enormously more satisfying, fulfilling, and full lives, so that they are much more concerned about what they are doing in life rather than what celebrities are doing. Celebrities, like the gods of Olympus, vanish when they are ignored. As inside, so outside. Humanity is literally spewing forth into cyberspace all of the garbage that lurks in human minds. It is vomiting out endless trivial nonsense. It is infantile and infinitely egotistical. We can learn about our minds from rationally reflecting on our minds, and also from studying the output of our minds, the things we create in the external world, the objects, institutions, technologies, the art, science, philosophies, and religions. Some people might say that the internet represents our best clue yet to the true way in which our minds operate. Conclusion. It is time for the human race to progress from childhood to adulthood. Abrahamism is religion for babies who are incapable of contemplating complex reality. Ideas such as good and evil must be approached with enormously more care and subtlety. The psychological ramifications must be examined. We should always be aware of the narrative being sold to us by the powers that be. We should always be on a lookout for zero and infinity, particularly when they are deployed to support extremist positions, assigning infinite value to one thing and zero to everything else. It is time for a smart society. It is time for the rule of the Abraxas, he who is beyond good and evil. Western philosophy.